If you're ready to get serious about finding an advisor, getting your finances in order, that's a great position to be in. But as you're going out interviewing a lot of different advisors, you might start thinking, well, they all kind of sound the same on the surface. So how do you figure out who is the right fit for you? Who's going to be the best advisor for you to help you move closer to your financial goals? Today, we're going to give you the framework, the real framework to cut through that and find the right fit. It's coming up. Welcome into All Things Retirement. Ben George with Anthony Aulffo of the Cardinal Wealth Group. He is a certified financial planner. And we got a pretty good conversation, Anthony, because look, everybody that's looking for an advisor and hasn't worked with one before often thinks, well, they're all kind of the same, right? I mean, I can just kind of search Google and whoever's kind of close to me might work, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, good to be with you, Ben. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, a difficult task for somebody to try to figure out the differences between advisors. I know if you ask an advisor, it's obviously we're in the industry. We know some of these are our friends or competitors. We know that there's differences, but I think it'll be helpful to go through, some of the different ways for people to understand what some of those differences are and to hopefully find the right fit for them.
Yeah, we're going to kind of break it down, make sure you're aware of kind of what to look for, maybe some questions to ask and what to be paying most attention to. But why can it be so hard? Let's just start there. Like, for people that go out and start meeting with a couple of different advisors, it can be pretty hard to tell the difference on the surface, can it?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at everyone's website, everybody we put our clients first. We do comprehensive planning. We do investing. We do life insurance. We do estate planning. So a lot of the websites in general just look and sound similar, but obviously there's going to be differences that you'll really want to look for, questions that you're going to want to ask, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
So let's start with kind of the size of the firms. I think, there's obviously these huge, big firms that, have many, many advisors on their team. You might not know who you're talking to from week to week versus a smaller firm like the Cardinal Wealth Group where you are. Mm-hmm. What are the differences between the two, and maybe how can you know what's going to be a better fit for you?
Yeah, firm size is a big one, right? And so if you're somebody who really wants to work with, you don't have a relationship with a friend or family member that's going to refer you to somebody, so you're just kind of starting from scratch, where do you look, right? So obviously you got TV ads and internet and so those big firms are going to really lend themselves to be out there because they're spending massive dollars on marketing. They're some of the biggest companies in the world. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing anything better. A lot of times it doesn't mean that you're even going to get a good, close relationship. So sometimes with a big firm, and again, not saying there's anything wrong with them. I started my career at Vanguard, so I know exactly what that kind of felt like. But it was a little bit more of a cookie cutter approach. We were kind of more or less a call center based off of your asset total, and you could be talking to anybody on my team. So you never really had a much of a personal relationship. But a big firm like a Vanguard, a Schwab, a Fidelity, you're not going to outmarket them. Certainly anybody our size, like a Cardinal Wealth Group. Whereas we kind of will, not just ourselves, but other small firms just like us, and small could be $1 billion firm in comparison to a Vanguard, which is $1 trillion firm. You're going to probably have a personalized relationship. You're going to have somebody who mostly will probably specialize in an area of focus. They're going to have a number of clients. They're going to actually pick their clients. So it's going to be them choosing really who that they want to work with. Whereas basically, if you have enough money, anybody can work with Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. I mean, you can open up an account for next to nothing. So there's, a huge difference between what you're getting in some of the smaller firms, boutique size that are hyper focused of working with certain clients, and a bigger firm. Certainly not going to beat them on a name recognition. So some trust has to be given ultimately to work with a more boutique firm. If you don't have a referral, a friend, a family member already working with them, it can feel like a step, that you're testing the waters.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another big one that comes up, the word fiduciary. I've seen this, and people that I know that if you started searching for an advisor, you're looking around, this word's probably going to come up more and more and more. So, what is the fiduciary, and what's the real big difference between somebody that is and somebody that isn't? Does it really matter?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most common phrases that we're getting asked today. It's also why we have it spread right on our website at the very beginning of our homepage. It says, we're a fiduciary, because people want to know, like, are you acting in their best interests all the time? And we just got an email from somebody recently and just asked, looking to work with an advisor. They gave us a list of questions, and specifically, are you a fiduciary 100% of the time? So just the differences there. A fiduciary is going to be legally required to act in your best interests at all times, whereas a non-fiduciary doesn't necessarily have to. They kind of follow a rule called suitability. It's just a lower bar of standard, if you will, and that allows them to maybe recommend products that could pay them more, still meets the suitability, but maybe is not necessarily the best option. That doesn't mean that everybody who doesn't act as a fiduciary isn't a good person or can't help you or isn't doing a great job. There's just different standards that a fiduciary is held to, from designations that they're doing, education that others maybe aren't doing.
All right. Well, you mentioned designations. So let's go there next, because there's a lot of designations out there, right? There's a bit of alphabet soup if you look around and look at everybody, right? You're a certified financial planner, a CFP, which is one that you'll see a lot when you're looking around. So help us better understand these specialties and designations. Like what truly is most important when I'm looking at this?
Yeah. And so if you, like, for example, not to plug myself, but like, I'm a certified financial planner. We work as a fiduciary. We focus on retirees, people that are 50 and over, in or nearing retirement. And so that for us is really showing our specialty, our fiduciary, our designation. But there are many other designations. So when people need some help with, say, life insurance, there's designations for that. Chartered life underwriter, that's a common one. But there's retirement income planner. There's Social Security designations. I hold some of these other ones. I really just don't really put them on my signature and hold myself out there for, other than really the CFP. But the Certified Financial Planner one, I would say, would be the gold standard as it relates to financial planning. You're held to the highest standard. You have to go through the most rigorous education requirement, experience requirement, ethics requirement, and stay on top of it on a biannual basis. I would say that that's somebody who is being trained to think about financial planning first, and your goals and concerns, and kind of working backwards to all these other areas that fall under it. That's probably somebody that I would want to, if I wasn't an advisor for my friends and family, I would say I would start with a certified financial planner that meets some other requirements depending on their specialty that they're looking for.
Why was it important for you to add that certified financial planner designation to your name?
Well, I just wanted to kind of get to the education of being able to advise people at the highest level. And I thought going through that process was going to help kind of coach me up. I did that while I was at Vanguard as an investment advisor. So I was taking night classes, and I thought that would just be a great way to kind of get more into that planning focus, differentiate myself. I think at the time when I did it, my 19th year, I think that there was only about 10,000 CFPs. I think there's about, what did I have on my website? I think 350,000 financial advisors out there. Yeah. And I think they're somewhere around 30,000-ish, 35,000 today. I could be wrong a little bit on that number, but it just kind of separates you at the end of the day. And I do want to work as obviously that fiduciary and be held to the highest standard. So really from a differential standpoint.
Yeah, that's important. About 10% then, roughly 10% of advisors are CFP. So that's good to know. All right. So we talked a little bit more of the technical side. Let's get on the personal side a little bit. Because I know this is, look, it's going to be someone that you're going to work with quite a bit. You want to work with, right? There's a lot of trust that you build in this relationship. So how can you kind of test out the relationship side of this? How can you get a better feel for whether or not you're going to like working with an advisor?
Right. So it's pretty easy to look up things like, are you certified financial planner? Are you a fiduciary? You can do broker check. You can kind of see if they have any types of dings on their record. That's one that we didn't mention. So if you can Google any advisors, see if they have any disputes, negative comments about them. So that's one. But on the relationship side, this is kind of more of the maybe personality test. So you kind of recognize that they meet it maybe from an education standpoint, but to your point, if you're going to spend the next 10, 20, 30 years together, you probably want it to be something that you enjoy working with, that you can see yourself showing up to meetings for. So I would first say they don't have to be your best friend, but is it going to just that kind of personality test? That's kind of where I would start from there. It certainly helps if you can ask a friend or family member who they're working with, because you'll feel a little bit more like chemistry to at least start, and that trust in order for you to take that first step. Like I said, if you're going to work with a smaller firm and you don't have that name recognition, you're going to need some trust to get started, much like a relationship, right? Everyone's on their best behavior for the first 6 months. And then really after time, you can ask my wife, right? You get to really know one another once you start spending and living together. So it's kind of the same thing. And we'll say this a lot of times to people who are thinking about working with us and we think we're a good fit. They don't really know who Cardinal is quite yet. You have to give some trust to see if this relationship is going to work out. And then it's up to you and the client to see if it's really going to last based off of those actions. We also offer that Cardinal Success during that free assessment, as well as basically a no cost type of mutual fitting process to kind of see if our two worlds are a good fit. And we think if we spend 3, 4, 5 meetings together, it gives them an idea of the type of work that we do. We get a sense of who they are from a personality standpoint, and really can just be honest with one another to see if our two worlds are a fit. And it's perfectly fine if it's not. But we always say the biggest thing you have to give up during that process is some time. So spending time with people to kind of go through that relationship test as a starting point, but ultimately it's the actions over time to maintain that relationship and what that looks like.
Yeah, if you want to begin that Cardinal Success journey, you can do that at cardinalwg.com. All right, before we get out of here, let's just provide a simple checklist. If someone is starting that search for an advisor right now, Anthony, what are just a list of questions or things they can just kind of check off and take to each meeting to make sure that help them find that advisor that's best for them?
Yeah, so I guess the size thing is going to be whether you're looking for somebody with name recognition or not. Fiduciary would kind of be the one that I would always start with. The specialty, so if you're somebody looking for retirement help, I would want to see that it's somebody who specializes in retirement. You should be able to tell that by obviously not just talking to them, but if you look at their website, do they have they written a book on it? Do they do a podcast on it? Do they have a newsletter on it? Things like that, material that kind of shows that they did it. Do they teach night classes? These are things that we did to not only find the people that we're looking for, but to educate the interests of financial planning that we were in, which I should have probably mentioned this earlier in our discussion, but how they're compensated, fee only, commission, both. Do they have minimums? Are they looking for new clients? Are you going to be somebody that they're going to want to speak with? One of the issues with large firms is that they'll take you in, but then you might end up working with their junior or somebody you never even heard of. So are you going to be working together if you join that firm, or are you just kind of like the figurehead? So those would be some of the things that I would be looking for. And then ultimately, can you see yourself hanging out a little bit a few times a year from a professional relationship that you would say, yeah, I want to work with this person. Again, you don't have to be best friends, but I do think it's helpful that you're like, yeah, I like Anthony, or I like Ben. I want to work with them for the next 20 or 30 years. So that's kind of where I would look at it from.
Okay. Well, look, choosing a financial advisor is going to be one of the most important decisions that you can make heading into retirement. So you want to do the homework. You want to ask those questions, even if they are difficult to do. You want to ask them, and you want to trust your gut, right? If you want to learn more about the Cardinal Wealth Group, take that free assessment. Begin that process, that Cardinal success journey. There's no pressure, no pitch, right? Just an honest conversation about whether or not you're the right fit, what your goals are moving forward, how that process will look. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. And then also please reach out to the Cardinal Wealth Group as well. And we'll be happy to have that conversation with you. But thanks for watching. As always, please subscribe. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Ben.
Information provided is for informational purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action.